Hello everybody! It's me, Will, or hashtag bakingactor. I'm wearing a hat because I haven't washed my hair. So, anyway, today I'm going to show you how to make some croissants. Like you like French guy, right? It's not very complicated, but there is a lot of waiting that has to happen. So this is basically a three-parter, and so here is the first part. I have measured out 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and then portioned out a cup here. And then over a double boiler, I have warmed up some milk. We're going to add in the flour to the milk. And then also, croissants are a pastry that flakes up, and it's a yeast. So we're going to add in 2.25 teaspoons of yeast, which happens to be this little package here. And this is instant yeast, and it will say rapid rise. So it is yellow with blue writing. So we're going to put that in here as well, into our warm milk. And what this is going to do is let the yeast bloom. So I'm just going to whisk all this together so that the flour is incorporated into the milk along with the yeast, and you'll start to be able to smell the yeast the moment that it blooms. This has to sit roughly 20 minutes, and then I'll show you what to do next. So I've let my, can you see it? I've let my yeast bloom for 20 minutes, and then in the remaining 2.5 cups of flour, I sifted in and whisked in 1/4 cup of sugar, just regular sugar, and then 2 teaspoons of salt, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, like all of my other techniques, I'm gonna make a well in my flour mixture and then pour the yeast mixture down into it. We'll see how frothy that is. Like the yeast has come alive. I mean, literally, the yeast has come alive. So, anyway, make sure that you get all this mixture out of here. Right? You can smell it. It smells like yeast. I don't know how to, one time I was watching The French Chef with Julia Child, and she says, "Tripe, it smells like tripe, like a lobster, smells like a lobster." So this is yeast mixture, and well, it smells like yeast. So anyway, we're gonna fold this in a little bit here and start to get it sticky. Stick our hands down in here. Now this is real sticky. Fold, push, turn, fold, push, turn, fold. We've kneaded this for about 2 minutes or so. It's still pretty pliable. Make it into a disc like this. Flour it so that it doesn't dry out. Stick it on a plate that's been floured, like so. Cover with saran wrap, and then you can leave it overnight if you need to, like make this the night before, then you make your croissants the next day, totally fine. But I'm gonna let it stay until tonight, and then I'll show you what to do for the next rest period. All right, so here's how you make your butter layer that goes in the middle of the dough. It's been about 5 hours, so I'm gonna make this, stick it in the fridge while I get my dough ready, then I can put it in, fold it together, okay? So I've taken 2 sticks of butter and cut them long ways, and then I had you need 2.5, so I cut 1 in half and then cut it long ways as well, so I have my 5 pieces here. Okay, this is on wax paper. Then you sandwich another piece of wax paper on top, and then you'll bake it. What we're looking for is a pad that's about 7 by 7 or so. The thickness kind of matters, but mostly you want 7 inches by 7 inches. Well, how do you know that, Will? So here's how I tell. My dough scraper here is 6 inches. So if you look, this is only 6, but then we got 6 by about 7. So I got to make it a little bit bigger. I'm gonna get this 7 by 7 and then I'll show you what to do with the dough. First, you have to wake up the dough. So, this has been in the refrigerator. I'm just gonna get it into a about 10 by 10 square. Okay, it's back cold. So, just peel off my wax paper here and at a diagonal so that it's like a diamond in the middle here. I'm going to put my butter. Okay. All right. So that way you can fold over the bottom. So you're making like a little envelope looking structure. Then you're ready to start rolling it out. This is the process that takes a long time, the lamination process, okay? So I'm gonna roll this out to about 10 by 24 and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I've gotten this rolled out to about 10 by 24 inches, maybe 22 inches. Now, the next part of the process that you do is you do third folds. So fold in a third, fold this way a third, take your pastry brush, brush off the excess flour that was on the bottom. Probably should do that on this one too. Okay. Then rotate. Do the same thing. So it needs to go that way a little bit and then back out to 24 inches, fold again. Then after you do that twice, it goes into the freezer for 20 minutes to let the butter get cold again. You do this process 3 times. Okay, so through the magic of the movies, here's what's happened. I've turned or laminated 3 times, waiting 20 minutes in between each time. And now, though, looks like this. I've got a folded, tri-folded dough here. So, say hello to my little friend. What I'm gonna do is cut this in half. Now, why have I done all this work and I'm cutting in half? Because I'm now gonna roll this out and cut our croissants. But I want to make sure that the whole thing doesn't get warm again. So I'm gonna cut it in half, roll it out, and put the other half back into the fridge while I do this. Just so that these pieces get a little bit better together, I'm gonna go ahead and use my fingers to start the process here. But you don't want the butter to warm up. So that's why you use your handy dandy rolling pin. Okay, so you want this piece to be about 8 inches by 15 inches. I want my croissants just a little bit more rolled, so I'm gonna make this a little bit taller and keep the integrity of the 15 inches. But I want like 3-layer rolls, so I'm just gonna go just a little bit taller until it's about 10 by 15. Yeah. Don't want to start to rip the dough. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay. I've prepped a pan with parchment paper so that I can achieve the cuts here. Now, I know that this is 6 inches. Some of them actually have a thermometer. Oh. Some of them, it's been a long day. Some of them actually have a scale on here, or a measuring tape, right? So I can kind of eyeball where 5 inches is. So I'm going to start all the way from the edge and go and make a slit at about 5 inches. Just a slit. Do the same process on the bottom of your dough. Okay. All right. Then you want to turn your dough around like so. And this is where it gets a little tricky. If you go all the way from the end again, your cut is going to be at the same spot. So go in about 2 inches, because what you're aiming for here is to make a V. Okay? Beautiful. Now, if you need this as a guide, go ahead and cut out. I'll cut this one first. Cut you a V. Oop, don't do that. If you have a smaller pastry cutter like this, maybe more manageable, but this has a little tine on it, so sometimes that tine catches up underneath. So you just got to be mindful of that. All right, so out of my first half of my dough, I've gotten what looks like pizza. It's a pizza, but it's not. It's a croissant. All right, I'll show you the process here. You need another slit in the middle, okay? Then brush off the excess flour and roll it up. Leave the tail on the bottom. Then, where you've made your slit in there, you can pull the sides and pull it around. So this is what your croissant will look like. So here's what they look like before they proof in the refrigerator overnight. Now, you can do it 3 different ways. You can proof them for about an hour or so, but the best way to get all the flavors developed that I've found is actually proof them in the refrigerator overnight, and it lets the butter get cold again. And then when you stick them in the oven, the steam that's in the butter just puffs everything up like that. So I'll show you when we cook them. This is overnight in the refrigerator. Okay, it's the next day. So it's about 9 a.m. in the morning. Fred had to get out at 6:30 to go to potty, right? So I took the croissants out of the refrigerator and let them get to room temperature, right? And they have puffed up, kind of. They haven't doubled in size, but they will actually puff up a little bit more once they go in the oven. I preheated the oven to 400 degrees. I separated an egg and put about a tablespoon of water in here, into the white, I should say. And then we're just going to baste one at a time, put these into the oven for about 30 minutes. My oven is a little hotter, so it only takes about 25. So check them after 15, but one at a time, because if you put both of the pans at a time on each shelf, it'll burn the top. So I'll show you what that looks like when they come out. Okay, so here is the before, and this is in my oven for 25 minutes, the after. Take them off the pan. The bottoms are pretty brown here, so they're done. Take them off the pan, let them cool on a rack for probably 5 minutes or so that they're not scalding hot when you open them up, and then they're ready to eat. So, in homage to Ina Garten, if you don't have time to make puff pastry, store-bought is fine. Subscribe, like my stuff. I have all social media as well. I'll make sure that I put the recipe in the comments below, and tell me what you think. If you have an easier way or a better recipe, let me know and I'll try it. Thanks so much. This is Will, or #BakingActor. See you next time.